This week on HomeKit News, the Aqara Panel Hub S1 Plus with HomeKit and Matter. Welcome back everybody. Today we're looking at a new product for European and UK users, Aqara's combined display panel and switch, namely the Aqara Panel Hub S1 Plus. It works with Apple Home, Amazon A and Google Home, but it will also work with Matter as a Matter bridge for Zigbee devices connected to it. It also has Bluetooth, although I suspect that's mostly just for adding newer Aqara devices for initial setup. Let's have a quick look at the specs now, so pause the video if required. And as mentioned, this is the European version, although it should work on other servers too. I myself have it connected to the US server, for example. It's not a Retina type screen, it's only 1440 by 720, but it still looks decent. It uses Wi-Fi to connect to your network, but also has a Zigbee radio inside as it's a Zigbee 3 hub. As it's also a switch, it has a maximum resistive load of 8 amps and the display measures 6.9 inches, which whilst not iPad dimensions, it is better than their other small display panels like the Cine Panel Switch S1, Magic Switch S1E and the Magic Pad S1. I did make a separate video for these, so there should be a link to that video in the corner of the screen. On to some of the features the S1 Plus offers, and it can use both 2.4 and 5 GHz Wi-Fi, just like their Hub M3 and the Aqara Camera Hub G3, which is very welcome. It's also a fully fledged Zigbee 3 hub, so you can add your Aqara Zigbee devices to it, just like any other Aqara hub. As it's also capable of being a Matter bridge, you can expose these devices to your Matter platform of choice via the S1 Plus. It also has proximity detection, so when you approach the screen it will activate for use. It can also stream live video from pretty much any Aqara camera, allowing you to view the live footage in full screen too. You can personalise almost all aspects of the screen, which incidentally can have up to 10 different boards. You can add, adjust or delete almost any device connected to your account, like light sensors, switches and more. It also has power monitoring, although this seems to be restricted to the 2 switches that are built into the S1 Plus itself. For those that prefer to use RTSP, the S1 Plus also allows for this too, as well as hinting at AI capabilities. What's in the box? There's a legal document as standard, as well as a physical installation manual. There's the display panel, of course, a small screwdriver and 2 pairs of screws for fitting it to a switch box. Let's look a little closer now, and on the back there's a part that allows you to connect it to your switch wires, and as this is designed for Europe, UK included, the back box is rounded off. For use as a switch you're going to need a neutral wire as well as a standard live wire and 2 load wires for the 2 switches it comes with. On the top edge of the panel are 4 microphones. These are for use with any cameras you use with the S1 Plus, which includes the G3, the G2H Pro, E1, the Video Doorbell G4 and forthcoming products like the G5 outdoor camera and the G410 Video Doorbell. On the underside are 2 1-watt speakers, so you can hear sounds coming from the aforementioned cameras, as well as on-device sounds and video doorbell chimes. In between these is a power button for the display, as well as a USB-C port. If you look on the underside where the back box is, there are 2 screws. These allow you to remove the back box and thus power the device via USB-C. So with the screws loosened, I can easily now remove the back box. You can see the connector for the box here, which is no longer in use, as you'll be now powering it via USB. I'll now set this up in the Aqara app, which isn't absolutely necessary, but should be done this way for configuring the device prior to adding it to HomeKit or any other smart home platform. Once booted up, select one of the many languages available and click Next Step. I'll be picking English, of course. You then get a QR code to add it to the Aqara app, or you can click on the HomeKit option below. In Aqara, click Add Accessory and tap on the Scan button in the top corner and scan the QR code on the screen. Select the relevant network and simply wait for it to go through the setup process. Add it to a room and you can then name the device. After that, you can start naming the switches if you wish, which is where it gets a bit strange as it offers 3 switches when there are in fact only 2. From there you can name the 6 wireless buttons as well, all of which can control almost any device, scene or automation in Apple Home or other platforms. With that all done, we now need to add it to Apple Home, although this can also be a bit confusing as it only shows one option, exposed to Matter. This then shows an option to generate a Matter code or connect to Apple Home, which still connects using Matter, not HomeKit. I've actually already added it via both Matter and HomeKit, the purposes of which I'll explain on more later. To add it to HomeKit, you can go into the panel itself by swiping down on the screen, selecting the cog icon and selecting Advanced Settings. From there, select HomeKit Binding and it'll show you the HomeKit QR code. Incidentally, I did use a 3D printed stand to use it with the back box, but as you'll see later, I eventually use it stuck to a wall for the rest of this video. So what can this panel do? Well, this section is understandably going to be a bit long, but I've broken it into sections, starting with a small feature at the side of the screen which allows you to see local weather as well as local time in either digital or this slightly over-the-top analog clock face. You can also view live camera feeds, which I'll look at in a bit, but when it comes to light control, even though this isn't connected to lights physically, I can still control other smart switches connected to my Aqara account. These switches are the Aqara smart switches I can control directly from the screen, which is pretty handy. I can also control other smart lighting like my Aqara light strip T1, that's the multicolour light strip, or my T1M ceiling light with control for both the main light and the ring light. When it comes to control, I can turn these on or off, of course, adjust the brightness, or even choose the colour, which in this case is for the light strip. Much the same goes for the ceiling light, where I can adjust the colour temperature too. I can also long press on these tiles to change the type of card displayed. I can select brightness and colour, which I have now, or brightness and colour temperature, or simply just brightness, and even make it solely a simple on-off switch. As previously mentioned, you can have up to 10 separate boards. One of these boards I have has 3 of my cameras grouped together, and if I select the E1, I get a live stream of the kitchen. I can also check the front door and also view the live stream from the video doorbell. I can also go full screen, which is great. I'll demo the video doorbell now, so I've set up an automation to show the live stream when it detects presence. And yes, that's me, folks. The panel can also act as an intercom, so here I am again with my wife answering.
Hello?
Hi, Simon from HomeKit News.
As the Aqara G4 can also identify faces, this is also shown on the panel, correctly identifying me. If you happen to have an Aqara G3 or E1 camera, the panel also allows you to pan the camera directly from the screen itself. Now, whilst it works, the response time is pretty slow if I'm honest, but it's good to have nonetheless. Smart locks are also covered by the S1 Plus, and I have the U50, the U200 and the A100 shown. Unless you have the U200 connected to the M3, it doesn't seem possible to operate it, however. In addition, I can control my E1 curtain driver, allowing specific positions via the visual graphic interface. Sensors are also covered, which also includes my very old Xiaomi temperature sensors which use Zigbee, which show separate tiles for each metric. As with the curtain motor, I can also control the Aqara roller shade driver in much the same way, using a familiar graphical user interface as seen here. I'll skip over to another board now, and you can see there are 6 wireless buttons. These are exposed to HomeKit, so you can program them to control many other HomeKit devices, not just Aqara devices. You only get one single press though. Even presence sensors are covered in a basic way. If I switch to yet another board, you can see I can have the same devices on multiple boards if I so wish. And if you look towards the end of this particular board, I've set up a photo gallery. Now if I tap on it, I get previews of some of the pics I uploaded, with the panel able to store up to 50 megabytes of images but no videos. These are photos of a trip I recently took to Hong Kong. Now even though the screen doesn't show as much detail as on my iPhone or 4K TV, it's more than adequate. You also get the option to crop images directly in the panel, and you can also delete photos or use the images as screensavers, although only one pic at any one time can be used as such. In the panel's setting page, I get basic audio-visual controls for sound and display brightness, for example, as well as a big choice for different languages. This includes lesser seen options like Czech, Turkish and Slovak, for example. You can also change the theme or wallpaper directly in the panel too. The themes available are free to use, although I imagine additional ones that you'll have to pay for will appear later. If I choose this option, it shows a preview of the theme, which once applied becomes the active theme on the panel. If I go back into settings, I can actually keep the theme, but change the wallpaper to something different if I wish. You can manage your boards directly on the screen too, selecting Manage. From here you can edit or delete existing boards, copy existing boards, or even add new ones. I'll add a new board, and from there I can choose to add Aqara scenes, devices or apps, with the latter being just the gallery for now. Magic Space allows you to add weather and a digital or analog clocks. I'll select a few devices to add along with the 6 wireless buttons. OK that and use the default name. Once that's applied, it's ready. If I long press on any of these tiles, I can then edit the devices or add new devices, which is really easy and intuitive. One device that doesn't show up for some reason is the Aqara Pet Feeder C1, although you can create a scene for it if you wish and control it that way. As previously mentioned, I've added the panel to Apple Home using both the Matter and HomeKit integrations, with each instance in a separate location. So if I go to the kitchen and scroll down, you can see the Magic panel listed in 2 separate areas. The first of these is the one with the single 6 press buttons, which is as it should be. If I go back to the other tile and open it up, I then get the 2 switches as expected, along with an alarm controller, which is standard for Aqara hubs using the HomeKit integration. If I then go to the Matter version of the panel, which is in another room, I once again get the same 6 programmable buttons. But if we go into the other tile, we get not 2 but 3 switches, which is clearly not correct, as the panel only has the option for 2 switches. That's the difference between installing via Matter and HomeKit. Now if I go in and select Show as separate tiles, what then happens is the switches move to the top of the page, as lights tend to go towards the top end of individual room pages, but the wireless buttons then seem to disappear. Obviously that's less than ideal, so for now you have to show them as a single tile. Additionally, if I go back into the HomeKit instance of the panel, you'll notice the tile for the 6 buttons is fine, but when it comes to the tile for the 2 switches and the alarm controller, you can see the text is also shunted halfway across. If I go into the settings for this tile and I try to adjust the name, you can see when I delete the name, the cursor stops halfway along the space. This is also another obvious bug that needs to be addressed. Earlier in the video, I showed you the switch connected to a 3D printed box, but I was also using these spacers that allow you to line up various switches. As an example, I've got another instance of the S1E, which is also available outside of China, and I've also got the air monitoring panel S1, which I believe is only available in China, and then finally one of Aqara's Z1 wall switches. If I take one of these spacers, you can see how they hold each switch neatly in place. However, I'm not sure whether these will work with European or British switch boxes or not. If you've made it as far as the pros and cons section, give yourself a pat on the back. Now, whilst an iPad might be a better option in many ways, the S1 does replace actual wall switches, meaning it also has permanent power, which are 2 important distinctions. As well as being a Zigbee hub, it can also be a Matter bridge to expose connected Zigbee devices to other platform, which is also a plus. It certainly works well with cameras, but especially so with the G4 video doorbell, and with a simple automation it can help the S1 automatically launch a live feed when the doorbell is pressed, or even if motion is detected. If you have an Aqara M3 and have third-party Matter devices, you should be able to have those show up on the S1 too. I can't say that for sure though, as I still don't currently use my M3 hubs. If for whatever reason you're unable to fit this to a light fitting, it's great that it can still be used freestanding and powered by USB. So to me, that's a big plus. The only slight negative is the presence of a couple of bugs which I already touched on, mainly visible in Apple Home, but I feel confident that these can be addressed, unless of course it's something that I'm doing wrong perhaps. All in all, this is yet another great bit of kit from Aqara, and one that I'm definitely going to be using every day for sure. Is this something that you've been waiting for? And if so, what use cases will it be good for? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. And of course, if you have any questions, I'll always reply. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like, please share it too, and do subscribe if you haven't done so already. In the meantime, stay safe, and as the US recently observed Martin Luther King Jr. Day, I'll leave you with one of his quotes, which to me is more relevant than ever.